Hello, I'm Rebecca, and this is Allison, and we are with Inland Empire Couples Counseling. Allison is our amazing intake coordinator. If you have ever called our office having questions about our services or looking to set up an appointment, Allison is the person you will have communicated with. And we are talking today about boundaries during the holidays. We know relationships and we know how tricky relationships can be when it comes to these times where we have a lot of expectation, a lot of tradition, and they also can be times that we sort of love and sort of hate. And so Allison has some questions for us to talk about today in what are boundaries and how do we set them so that we all can have a great holiday.
So, my first question is, what does it mean to set boundaries and why are they so important?
So, in a very basic sense, setting boundaries is what can mean two things. One is it's like, this is my understanding of where I end and the other person begins. So, like, this is the stuff that's my responsibility, and that's the stuff that's your responsibility. And then the other sense is that boundaries tell, boundaries tell other people how we will act. So it's like, this is what I expect from you. And if you don't meet the expectation, this is what I will do. This is not like a consequence really, but just like informing other people, this is how we want to be treated. And this is, what we're going to do.
Absolutely. What are some examples of boundaries that we could use during the holidays specifically?
Yeah. Are you thinking boundaries like with our romantic partner or boundaries with our extended family or both?
Probably both, but let's start with our partners.
Okay. Actually, the first thing that popped into my head was around drinking, which is interesting, right? We might say something like, I don't want there to be drinking all day, or last time we were with your family and everybody got sloshed and it turned into a big fight. Like, that is not something that I want to do again. So if we're there and you're drinking, I will leave. That's what the boundary is it's not what you're allowed to do. It's like, this is what my comfort level is. And if that doesn't work for you, then I will remove myself from the situation.
Okay.
It might also be something like, we're seeing your family on the one day and my family on the next day. And I don't want to be so tired from having seen your family that I'm like grumpy and don't have a good time. So maybe my boundary is that I'm going to leave your family's gathering at this, set time. That's my boundary. And if you want to come with me, great. We can plan to leave together. If you don't want to come with me, then maybe we need to plan to drive separately, or one of us needs to plan to have someone give us a ride home or something, because this is my boundary for how long I want to stay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're avoiding burnout from being around so many people because it's stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it hard to set boundaries? I feel like it's really difficult to set boundaries with family, especially your partner's family when it comes to that time, because the holidays are all about being together, but nobody talks about how difficult it is.
Right. I think part of why it's hard when we talk about taking our little family or our little couple and then figuring out how we merge into either one of our extended families, part of why it's hard is that there's so much tradition and so much expectation that maybe when you go to your partner's family, they have a way that they have always done things. And it might be spoken and it might be unspoken. And if you come in and the way that they do things doesn't work for you, or you don't have fun doing the same kinds of things, or that situation makes you anxious or whatever, then you are asking for, or maybe expecting, an entire family full of people with years worth of traditions and unspoken things to please just change that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard ask for a lot of people. I think that especially when it has to do with our partner's family, when there's things that we don't like or we disagree with, or that sometimes it's not even a disagreement, it's just like, my family traditions are different. I didn't know to expect this. I'm a little bit uncomfortable in this situation. That can often come across as a criticism of the family. Like, you guys are doing Christmas wrong, or that's not the proper type of stuffing for Thanksgiving dinner, or something like that, where the way that we present it maybe doesn't just sound like, oh, we're different, but it sounds like you guys are wrong. And that's really hard.
Thank you. Yeah. What advice would you give someone who finds it hard to set healthy boundaries, or techniques that you could give someone to hold those boundaries with the family member or with your partner?
Okay. So the first part of the question is, I haven't been putting up the questions. I just realized. Oh well, we had little scripts ready to put up, and I was so engaged in the conversation, I forgot to display them.
That's okay.
Is it this question?
Yes, yes. It kind of
Okay.
ties into the next one too.
Yeah. So what advice to give someone who finds it difficult to maintain healthy boundaries? Um, that one is kind of hard for me to know what to say without an example. Do you have an example of what you're thinking of here?
Um, say you're somebody who likes to avoid conflict, who doesn't really like to start, doesn't want to cause any strife in the family, or maybe you're new in the relationship and you don't want to press any buttons with your partner's family. How would you go about doing that if you're really not comfortable with what's about to happen?
Yeah. I think those kind of situations are really tricky because the person is going to be caught. It's kind of a rock and a hard place thing. Because on the one hand, maybe I am not comfortable with what goes on here, or what happens here just like makes me anxious, or maybe I just don't know them well enough to feel comfortable really letting down my guard and joining in. So there's your own comfort on the one hand. And then on the other hand, it's like, but if I say something different, or if I request that we do things differently, or if I'm, the stick in the mud, if you will, then I am bringing about the conflict I prefer to avoid. So it really is more of an internal conflict than it is something that happens between the person and the family. That's like secondary. The first thing is that you got to figure out for yourself, what is the way that you want to handle the situation. If you decide, I really don't want there to be any open conflict, that is going to be so uncomfortable for me, then you have to figure out, okay, so how do I kind of go along with things in a way that is going to work for me? So maybe that means I'm going to be a little more anxious. Maybe that means that I talk to my partner in advance and ask, hey, could you please stay by my side on this? Because I don't want to make a big deal in front of the family, but I actually feel kind of worried about it. So can you please kind of stay here with me? But I don't want to say anything. Right? Like there might be strategies that you use to manage your own anxiety or discomfort because you're choosing that you would rather avoid the open conflict. And in another situation, you might say, that the worry or the anxiety for me is just so high that it's not worth it. And so I'm going to prioritize that I need to feel at least a little more comfortable. I need to feel at least like tolerable. And that me choosing that means that I'm going to have some uncomfortable conversations with people. Or it means that I'm going to have to say, no, I won't be participating in this activity, but thank you. Or can you tell me when the turkey plot is over? I really don't want to do it. Tell me when it's over and I'll come after that.
Yeah. But setting those expectations up front with, hey, what am I comfortable with? What do I need to communicate to everyone else involved to get through this evening?
Yeah. But it has to start first with you. And I think that's the difference where setting a boundary comes across as, hey, this is what I want so that we can all have a good time. And versus you guys do the holiday wrong. If we haven't gotten clear with ourselves first, then it can come across as more of the criticism than something that's just like, hey, I love you guys, and this activity doesn't work for me, and please go ahead and do it without me. And I promise I won't have my feelings hurt, and I'll join up with you later. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some calming techniques that we could use when we're either struggling with a family member or struggling with boundaries in general with our partner or anybody else, especially during the holidays?
Yeah. One that is super easy is to pay attention to your breath, and specifically your out breath. So when we talk about breathing techniques, taking some big, deep, calm breaths can be really useful. And sometimes you might not even have the presence of mind that like, let me set this app thing on my watch and go outside and breathe for 5 minutes. You can if you want to, or if you're just sitting there and you notice yourself kind of feeling worried, pay attention to the out breath. Notice every time that you go that you breathe out and there's a little space before you breathe back in, and just let yourself pay attention to that, and it will have an overall calming effect on you. So that's something you can do that nobody else has to even know. Another thing that's great is to use some distraction techniques. So if you find that you're a little bit agitated, because we're calming, we could be calming down from anxiety, we could be calming down from anger, we could be like, there's lots of things we could be calming from, right? But if you notice that you need to calm, one of the best things, easiest things you can do is distraction. So can I remove myself from the situation and find something to distract me? And what that will do is it, one, moves your brain out of that difficult situation. Because if you leave and you still just sit there and like ruminate in your head and turn it around and around how much you hate these people or how much you wish that it wasn't like this or whatever, you're not giving yourself a chance to calm down. You've left the situation, but you're still mentally in it. And
now you're spiraling.
That's where distraction can be really useful. So maybe that's something that you're like, whoa, this is hard for me. You know what? I'm going to go take a turn with the little kids. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go be Auntie Becca and we're going to go, play a game with them. And it still is like, maybe nobody's going to be mad, maybe whatever, but I'm, removing myself from the situation, doing something that's distracting. And that's going to allow my body to process whatever stress hormones were released and give me time to reset back to normal. Maybe this is when you offer to go to the store to buy some more ice, or you be the person who says, it's okay, I'll take my turn doing the dishes. Like there's maybe lots of things that you could do that don't necessarily look like, I dislike this family and I need some time. I need some separate time from you, but you can take a step away and let yourself calm down.
Absolutely.
Combining that with movement is also fantastic. So if you leave to take a walk, if you go to play with the kids, if you put on some music and you dance, whatever that is will also help your body reset back to a baseline. And honestly, if you have a partner who's game for it, physical touch is really helpful in calming. So if you know in advance, these are situations that stress me out or make me anxious or make me angry, and touch really helps. Can I come to you while we're at the holiday thing and you'll just hold my hand, or we can sit together or whatever. And you get to have this tiny little pocket of being with someone that you love and that you feel safe with, even when you're in a larger situation that might feel uncomfortable.
I think having that physical support can help so much and in so many ways that you don't even realize. Just having someone you trust to just be next to you, like, oh, wow, okay, I feel safe now. But I think also setting the expectation with yourself that you can't control how other people are going to perceive you setting your boundaries, that some people might be upset, even though that's what you're trying to avoid. All you can do is take care of yourself during the holidays and make sure that, you're safe mentally and physically.
Yeah. And if you need help figuring out how to navigate boundaries with your partner, how to navigate boundaries that you and your partner are trying to have with your extended family, or even just you need help figuring out how to word some of that stuff, because it is a skill to be able to say something like, you know what, every morning I go for a run, and I do that because it's part of what helps me be a happy person and take good care of myself. And I want to be my best self when I'm here together with the family. So please forgive me that I'm skipping the morning activity because I'm going for a run. I love you guys. It's not personal. It takes skill to be able to say that. And if you need help figuring out what the boundary is and how you communicate it to the rest of your family in a way that sounds pro relationship and not like, I hate you or I'm criticizing you, this is what therapy is for. If you'd like to work with one of our therapists, if you want to watch a replay of this video or check out any of the other wealth of resources that we have out there to help people with relationships, you can find that all on our website at iecouplescounseling.com. And that's also where you would schedule a consultation with Allison if you're interested in working with one of our therapists.